Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else. I just took a day off. I have my finals coming next week, and I had to write some paper, and there he is. I said sometimes these guys from Australia pop in when you show up late, and there one is, RJ. I want to welcome you, RJ. How are you doing? Famous Randy from Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm doing okay, fine. I'm in the process of I'm in the process of doing something. I'm listening. I'm
Okay.
multitasking is what I'm doing.
All right. Well, you know these Bible verses. We went over them. Verse 12, just something to put in people's mind. For when there is a change in the priesthood, when the priesthood is changed, the law must be changed as well. I want to put that in your mind so the next time a Judaizer tells you, oh, nothing changed. Like, well, what about Hebrews 7, verse 12? We have now a new high priest from the tribe of Judah. Any comment on that, Mr. RJ?
Well, yeah, at that, yeah, it's self-explanatory, I think, in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, that's the whole thing here. For it is evident that our Lord was descended from Judah. And so now there's got to be a change in the law. Well, this isn't the night to talk about it, but we're going to stand by that. Oh, I had it pulled up all doubly, so we could have skipped that. The other reminder is there is Garcinda of Forcalquier, and she is the girl that all the kings and the dynasties of all the royals that have ever been born are related to her. We proved that the other day. If you don't believe it, just search her name and you'll find out everyone was related to her. All those people that are into incest started here. Got to it from the Columbia. The United States was almost called the United States of Columbia, but Columbia, the other country down in the South, well, they all wear those Phrygian hats. All those freed slaves were into being given their own god. We claimed Columbia. It's nice. I guess we won. So here's how Columbia led us to say, and this basically is going towards white power. The slavery thing and the abortion thing, when you have a culture that deals with slave and you believe you have the people in power that, well, we have a new white god. Our deist government gave
And she
us
lets her hair hang down.
she let her hair hang down. She got a star. She got her, let's face it, it's barely her nipple holding up that thing because as you're going to see, the people back in that day had a thing for girls barely clothed, RJ, and not much has changed. Look, they got a school book. They're going
They're
to be
not
bringing
clothed at all.
the normal schools to everybody. But you just got to drive out the Indians. You got to go. Look, they don't.
Oh, she's electrifying everything?
Yeah. She's bringing the telegraph. You got to chase out the buffalo, and as soon as that happens, well, the settlers, and that's a military term, are going to settle. These Indians, you got to go there where they're doing the ghost dance. They're thinking like, bullets won't
Trail
hurt
of
me.
Tears.
Yeah, bullets won't hurt me. So you can farm. Yeah, but I mean, it's all about stringing the telegraph, bringing the train. There's going to end slavery, but somehow we still had separate baseball teams until 1940. We had forced segregation, separate water fountains. That bothers me. That just bugs me. Anyway, we both are into this desert kite thing. Here's what I heard about it, RJ.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe to the channel for regular content on ancient architecture, as well as all of the latest news from the world of archaeology, being any other species of animal.
They love gazelles
From
to eat them.
excavations between 1996 and 2001, almost 8,000 gazelle bone specimens had been retrieved from Göbekli Tepe, where populations must have been growing exponentially. Furthermore, analysis also shows they were only hunted between midsummer and early autumn.
And it's funny. There's the guy here. Here's the guy that was so into his undercover spying for Britain. As he went over there, he let people rape him just so he could be like one of those things, you know. And he wrote this book. First, he was a geologist, then he was a spy, but he was always going to do whatever it took.
But they had no idea what they were. They mention them in their book titled The Wilderness of Zin, referring to them as long and puzzling walls, going on for some distance and then ending so aimlessly. One that they documented was...
So, what's the big tarp that Wise Up was talking about? Usually Wise Up pops up on my algorithm.
Yeah, that one popped up just before I watched it earlier, but it popped up again when I went to
I wonder if I'm
subscription.
subscribed. Sometimes I get mad at Wise Up and unsubscribe to him, but I didn't this time. We've been on good terms for a long time now.
Back so soon, are we? Guys, I've just seen a channel put out a video in the last 24 hours, and I felt that I had to do an update on something I put out. Anyway, they're called Desert Kites. I didn't know the name, but anyway, the name itself, Kites, seems to make you think about something that's blowing in the wind, in English anyway, which is interesting in itself. Now, these things are found all over the place in the Middle East. And
okay, so he's going to take it to that it's a kite on the ground and not something for gazelles. I wonder if he actually watched the video.
It's also a go that didn't look anything like that, right? And a few
What was that?
pieces
The
discovered
tent took off.
years
It's
also
a sleeping bag or something.
didn't look anything like that, right? And a few pieces
Just tie a rope
of
on the sleeping
rock
bag
or
and
mud
pull it
rock
in.
could easily have been transported there, especially by archaeologists, just to try and preserve these sites, right? Over to one side, which it would do. And it was the flaps. You could see how it had folded up as it collapsed on itself on one side.
This is what Wise Up does to my stuff. You know, you always got to have another thing. It's not for catching the gazelles when all the bones they have. It was a great big tent for some reason. Okay.
Like I say, it would depend on the actual size of the site itself, but just because you get these circles here, if you did have tent posts of some kind, then you would have rocks around its base anyway, just to keep it in place, because it's in the desert, so you would get strong crosswinds. And
ice, showing that people used the local topography to corral the wild herds towards the enclosures. Archaeologists have also identified some associated structures close to desert kites, including semi-subterranean oval enclosures, which are thought to be temporary camps or butchering areas for the hunters. There are also cell-like structures, but these don't have an associated funnel. They're thought to be the hideouts for the hunters, the place they went when stalking their prey. There are so many different classifications of desert kites.
Maybe those
and
are all
in the
big
Shanliurfa
kites
region,
and
many different
tents.
types are found.
Because
when looking on Google Earth, you can
in
often...
English, kite means something that might have a fabric. So
Yeah, right at the end of Wise Ups, there was a photo, like an aerial photo of it looked more
Tent
to
like.
the description what he was talking about.
Maybe I should check it out because
It was right near the end of his on Wise Ups. Must have been at, I don't know, 420 mark maybe, because I see it's 450. So
Like I say with the other.
but it was towards the very end where, and I have no idea where he's getting what he's sharing.
probably from that other video.
Uh, yeah, here where it's how it's laid over. I guess it would have been before that. Yeah, 420 was too far.
And houses
Yeah,
there are your mud
I guess we
houses
just won't know.
within these sites anywhere.
Yeah, that was right at that at the end, just before the names came up. But anyhow, yeah, it's a
Yeah,
speculation.
that could be a dermal layer of skin, is what it looked like to me.
Well, yeah, some sort of membrane of something.
Yeah. There's always a thin layer of that gristle or something that goes in between what gets washed off. For myself, I don't think that he had enough information to go out with, well, here's a better idea. That just seems to be something that people like to do. Here's the big deal. Here's how the Roman Catholics infected the United States. They infected the Civil War, and they've been everywhere since then, to the point of, what a surprise. After they signed the affidavit in the 1958 U.S. Defense Education Act that gave us DARPA, NASA, and the STEM program, the next president was the first Roman Catholic. He couldn't go to a lot of clubs in the United States because they didn't allow Catholics to join because, well, they're Catholic and did the Spanish Inquisition and all of that stuff, RJ. They just were bad, not Christians. Everybody knew it for a long time. And then all of a sudden, hey, the president.
They shouldn't be trusted.
Would you rather have just some normal, just go pick the first black guy you see off the street and have him be the president, or Barack Obama? I'd go with the odds on just go grab somebody off the street.
It's someone that hasn't been heavily influenced.
I don't care if it's a girl or a boy. It had to be better than what they call, who they put up as, here's our first black president.
Yeah. No,
anyway, here's how. Listen to who gets involved in setting him up. The main people in the United States government, CIA.
Became a political enemy of the two major forces in Indochina, and instead of remaining a target, opted to ship out for a world tour with his brother, the Catholic bishop No Zin Tuk, one of the most powerful Catholics in Vietnam. His main mission was to seek Western backers for his nationalist organization. Often, when reading about Diem, authors will write that he was handpicked by the United States to succeed the French. Now, this statement is completely true, as I will show, but I would take this a step further. There is a strong case, at least in my view, and I hope to argue this video, that No Dinh Diem was handpicked by U.S. intelligence, specifically the CIA, as their chosen man in Vietnam. As during his first stop on his world tour in 1950 in Tokyo, Japan, Diem would be introduced by a mutual friend to a relatively unknown academic named Wesley R.
There's a lot to this. It's an hour video, but I bet he got introduced with one of those secret handshakes, man. That's what they like to do. This Lansdale, they make a big deal out of this guy.
With Vietnam. Lansdale was a charismatic former San Francisco advertising executive turned World War II OSS propaganda officer
Oh,
who had spent the entire war stateside, working on psychological operations and propaganda campaigns. Lansdale would later make a name for himself as a counterinsurgency mastermind, having personally assisted the Western-aligned Secretary of Defense and future President of the Philippines, Magsaysay, in suppressing the communist Hukbalahap rebellion right after World War II.
RJ, what do you think? Like after the war, World War II, do you think that you could have been like one of those masterminds of mind control propaganda if the government, tapped you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, we need some help"?
Well, you know, who wasn't looking for some cash flow right from
That's what
the
you
right
look
from
like.
the voting
This
populace?
is it's almost as spilly. It's like looking at my big brother back when he was in his 50s, about 60 years ago. That looks like RJ just smoking them big
Yeah,
doobies all the time, man.
After Japanese
I did it for a little while.
purported
Yeah,
vaults filled
RJ's
with lost
mind is
gold.
always clear.
I
That's
find
for
it
sure.
interesting, just as an aside, that as a society, we have completely embraced the legend of the Nazi lost gold. Nazi gold has basically become a cornerstone of our collective imagination at this point, and there definitely was a lot of Nazi
Gold.
gold at the end of the war. But Japanese gold, that's one we don't hear about very
Huh.
often. Well, it
What?
turns out that the Japanese Empire had managed to plunder massive amounts of gold from their Asian conquests by the end of World War II. So before I continue, I have
Guess what they did? They invested it in heroin, and all the people said, "Dang, they're smart. We should invest in heroin."
handed. Well, that is except for one case in the early 1970s, where Filipino locksmith Roger Rojas found a solid gold Buddha and allegedly $22 billion worth of gold bullion
What?
in a vault under an abandoned hospital that had once been used by Yamashita during World War II as a base of operations. Rojas's newly found fortune was then stolen by thugs working for then dictator of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos. This is in
Of course, he's dead. He can't defend himself, RJ. So just bunch of, it's like,
All
wow.
booty, the hand of the holder. Yeah.
And these guys are the Catholics that the United States is saying, these are the people that have to be in charge.
Under Lansdale in Saigon in 1955, Lucien Canet likely connected with the Corsican expatriate mobsters to ensure that links with northern Laos were not
Oh, the
lost and
mob.
that Asian dope kept flowing eventually to Marseille. At the very least, Canet was well connected to the Corsican underground in Saigon, which according to Douglas Valentine, he rubbed shoulders with at the historic Hôtel Continental, owned by father and son Mathieu and Philippe Franchini. The Franchinis, of course, had deep ties to the Marseille syndicates and
Cutting out the map. What's up with that?
RJ, this guy does not look like a thug. He just looks like regular salty earth kind of guy, doesn't he? There he is, CIA thug.
Playing his character.
Lansdale's
Well,
deputy. I'm just noticing this chair behind him. This might cause for some intervention and see if we can tie
Is that
it.
woven cane or what? Or
Yes,
what's
it is. It's some sort of a divine thing. So what am I going to need is a new tab here. See,
Okay.
like that rock and roll.
Yeah, that buddy of mine, his father, who's been gone for, I don't know, 25 years, that's what he did. He would recane old chairs. Yeah, and he did professional work.
See, they have, there's a legend that these rock stars like to pose in wicker chairs, and there's one of them that might be it that a bunch of people have posed in. There's another one. I think it's that chair.
Get comfortable.
Yeah, the iconic peacock chair. That's the deal, man. That's the chair. So anyway, that's what it looked like. It looks like he was somehow, maybe it's a Pope chair, or maybe I'm just making a mountain out of a molehill. Huh?
His view that, quote, the Corsicans are smarter, tougher, and better organized than the Sicilians.
Oh,
End
come
quote.
on.
His admiration for the Corsicans was reciprocated, as after his time in Vietnam as a paramilitary advisor came to an end in the mid-60s, Canet was allegedly gifted a large
Hey,
gold
it's like looking
medallion
in a
adorning
mirror.
an eagle crest and an engraving stating in Corsican language, for your friendship, Canet. So with all that said, and although McCoy is hesitant to say so directly, I will say that it appears clear to me anyways that Canet, the Corsican, the CIA's honorary Brotherhood member, was the one to forge the bond between the defiant independents. Or at least that was how Lansdale and his team may have interpreted the president's sporadic reluctance to follow his policy advice.
Huh. That's like the reluctance of the general of the Union Army to do what the President Lincoln said. He's like, yeah, I don't think so. And they never figured out he's working for the other side. And then he ran for president against the president that he was supposed to be working for. That's got to be a red flag. Anyway, Michigan University was all over this, so they're Catholic too.
And other policing equipment, and imported several police officers and even FBI agents to come work with the Diem government. To quote Rampart magazine again, quote, in doing so, the East Lansing contingent helped secure Diem's dictatorship and to provide the base and the arms for the secret police, which were to make Madame New and her brother, that being No Din New, infamous at a later date. Now, as I've hopefully demonstrated in this documentary, this same secret police force would actually be hooked up with Lao opium profits by the CIA.
Okay, there we go. So it's all about the drugs, man. They love the drugs. There's that rock and roll chair. It was that chair.
The Mint Act, which was the beginning of the dollar. It was also the first country in the world to adopt the decimal system for currency. And now when we go over to the UK and see that they also started to use the British pound in 1707, making it the official currency of the UK. When England and Scotland united to form a single country, even China making a brand new currency in 1948.
Okay, I kind of know why you sent me this. I kind of get it, but go ahead. It's hats off to him. I mean, that's a good find. I mean, he's helping me.
He's getting within a decade. Yeah.
Yeah, he's finally backed up. He used to say it was like around the 1800s, and we were always saying, no, lunch break, it's 1711. He's getting closer. Everybody's getting closer. So, I mean, that's a good catch. It's the first coin with the decimal system. That's a good one. That's helping. It's all helping.
It's informative. Yeah.
Right. So I'm in a good mood, even though the
accurate.
university is messing with me. There's nothing that isn't coming true according to the BIBLE, and that's the book for me. A stand alone on the. You know that song, right?
Yeah, I may have heard it.
And if the devil doesn't like it, he can sit on attack. Sit on attack. You never heard that one either?
This new currency was
I'm not so familiar with that.
There's like so many old cool songs my mom used to sing to me, like,
Sure. Yeah.
I've got that joy, joy, joy down in my heart. And then if it was good enough for Peter, it was good enough for Peter. It was good enough for Peter, and it's good enough for me. She could just go for hours. Because we drove a lot. We drove a lot.
And we found this character.
Yeah, children. So that was before, the video and all that kind of stuff.
It is in the middle of nowhere in
buildings where
United States in the 60s, there was not a lot of radios.
That they didn't even need to use the winner's design. Mr. Houser.
Okay, so he's just getting back into the same thing. I'm going to beat a dead horse here pretty soon. Where's the money stuff?
To start repopulating this place again. And 300 years later, here we all are. And this is becoming clearer and clearer by the episode.
Oh, here
when we
you got some
take a look at
inflation money.
inflation, where it basically follows the exact same chart that the world population does when we have nothing going on before the 1700s and then just takes off. I think we have located the beginning point of our current civilization based on math and information that they have provided us, where there's nothing.
Wow,
Out
look
of
at that one.
nowhere in 1700,
there's one.
construction beginning in 1627. Beginning in 1627. 397 years ago, in a time period that we have shown, according to the mainstream narrative, had just a little over no people, yet able to knock out the Buddha castle and massive palaces.
Just a
It was
little
the
over
booming 1600s,
nobody.
before all currencies. They just
Here's a dead horse. Let's beat it. Like a factory lineup, you know.
Today, we will examine
Produce.
marble sculptures from the
That's at 1666. You know, most people go like, well, AD 1711 is your big deal. Yeah, and the Gregorian calendar, the Julian calendar, I don't believe that they only changed it by 11 days. Who believes that? Yeah, so these two different.
This picture here, the dude in the center with his left hand out, are the fingers broke off? Or wait,
Let's get it. We're going to look at it again here. Where was it?
well, I thought it was just going. I thought you just hit stop, but that's it right there.
Yeah, something. He looks like he is missing a couple of
Digits 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, like the thumb.
yeah, and
And
then
then-
their marble is the foot is attached. So they did these in pieces. And they might have even done the fingers in pieces.
But unless he pinched all the fingernails and they're black and blue.
So that's the
Oh,
famous
They're
one.
black.
Yep, that's the. How could they do the net? You know that, and that's Bernini. I mean, how can you do that? There's some
Very
PG
carefully.
13 butts up coming up in this one. You just
And then one had black dots on them, and he speculated the purpose.
yeah, it's the veils that are, and I can do some, I can do as good as anybody with stone today with the tools, but nobody can do this. And this is stuff is not that old. Yeah, lace, and then like the veils over the face. They have some statues that just show flaws in the clothing. You know, it's like, ooh, there's a misstitch in the clothing, and they got it in
Yep.
the statue.
Yep.
Yeah, these Sylvie from New Earth Channel.
Yeah.
She's the one that started showing these back in 2014, 2015.
Yeah. These have been around a while.
But nobody's answered it yet. They keep trying to say, oh, it's marble that got poured. It's 3D printing, but they can't do it with our 3D printers, you know. They can only talk about it. There's that veiling. I got some the website pulled up for the guy that supposedly did this, and this was in the 1800s. It just seems like, wait, is it easier to believe that the guy could do this in the 1600s, but not in the 1800s? They're supposed to have lost that technology. We couldn't even find the concrete, right?
It's suspicious.
I think that dude is about to throw that woman into the lake or something. That's a statue?
Yep.
Holy moly. Wake up.
Yeah, the one with that has the eyelashes is yeah, the detail and I mean lifelike, certainly. Life size, lifelike, whatever.
Yeah. Thanks for the big picture, Wikipedia. She got a little smirk on her face.
Yeah, if you only knew what she was thinking, huh?
Who knows? So that's the Cordellini. He's the veil person, I guess. This is the famous one. We just looked at it. Modesty. It's a different kind of modesty than I'm used to. So here's this one. When did usually you think of Michelangelo, they try to put those guys that can do this kind of stuff in the 1400s, 1500s. But they must have signed and dated him and said, he knew George Washington. And matter of fact, there's a plaster replica of the marble statue. They always want to reimagine George Washington as a Roman because George Washington and those people were deists. They worshipped the Greek culture. They even named their government the Senate after Rome. They called it a Christian country because they wanted you to believe that. They wanted you to believe they freed the slaves, but again, the one drop rule. So that's my algorithm. The last Bible verse before we look up the one drop rule is the one we were trying to figure out. Truly, I tell you, among those born of women, there has risen no one greater than John the Baptist. This has to be taken in context of when he said it before he died. Yet even the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. So we want the people to think about it. We don't want them to overthink it. What did we come up with?
Well, is he comparing, in heaven as compared to here in earth? Because there's a contrast, I would bet.
It's something to going back to the because the group that they're talking to is that because nobody in that old covenant, and he died before Jesus, had the comforter, the word of God written on their heart. The Spirit could come on them like it did Samson, but a lot of times you're wondering, like, well, it's obvious the Spirit's not with him all the time. And it's just something to put out there,
Well, yeah, as far as, though God's will, if he's going to use, humans in his creation, and if he has to put his spirit in them or on them in order to, his will be done, so be it.
Right. I'm looking up the Black Baseball League. Let's get that straight. Oh, they preferred to be called the Negro Baseball League. So how long did that? Okay. 7 relatively success. They made a lot of money starting in 1920 because they weren't allowed to play with white people. They had to pass a law Well, Jackie Robinson, the famous baseball player, has his, I think he's number 42, has his number retired on all baseball teams. Passed a law, Jesse can play with the white people. Freed the slaves in 1865, and Abraham Lincoln got killed because a lot of people were super mad. He freed the slaves, but then the KKK, President Wilson showed that movie about the KKK in the White House, and he was quoted in it. And so he was obviously on board with the lost cause of the Confederacy. They passed laws that reestablished the one drop rule. And I can't get any idea of when. They just tell us that the one drop rule was a legal principle of racial classification, that it was, I guess,
unwritten law. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't everywhere in the United States, but it was prominent.
Yeah, they honored it.
But okay, it asserted that the African ancestry, anybody that descends from them, regardless of the proportion in different groups. Okay, well, that just tells you what is hypodescent. It doesn't say it was a legal principle of racial classification prominent in the United States. Where's the footnote? Where does it say? Because of this law, because it was passed by the reestablishment of the One Drop Rule Act. Every time, they have laws, they do that. They tell you.
Well, it may have been more prominent in the secret societies that were honoring that detail.
You got to get some of those guys in the secret societies that said, what is it? Why did those people? Here's what is. When I say they don't like to leave pennies on the table, I'm usually talking about the people that were going to blow up the World Trade Centers, all 7 of them, and they couldn't pass up a few measly $1 million in short-selling American airline stocks, and they still won't release who those people were. But they can't, if there's a penny on the table, they want it.
Well, it should belong to someone, and it may as well be them, yeah.
So they decided that let's start a Negro baseball league. We can discriminate and not like them, and they can't drink at our fountains or be at our movies.
Yeah,
but they can play some ball.
Yeah, support. Yeah, if they can create a cash flow.
Cash
and I'm
flow.
sure it did.
Yeah, they're relatively successful. So
you get investors in that gig, yeah.
Yeah. And then they had all of those people. Remember what they would do? They would pass as white. They pretend they wanted to act like it. Yeah, because they're being discriminated.
Well, it's not a jab.
Who wouldn't if you? I mean, they're white people that were bred to look white so they could still be slaves, so that other white people could rape them
and own them, and yeah.
Yeah, and when you're done being raped, go make my wife's bed and fix her dinner. Okay, Dad, call me master. Okay. Because they're breeding them to be sold, to go, look, you want a white slave? We got him. The market is here, baby. So who do they want to make the money? The first known baseball game between 2 black teams was held November 15th in 1859. Okay. Were they playing just only 2 teams, or did they play other white teams? Wonder what they were doing in their cricket leagues. When did the world accept eugenics? I know that the Nazis got the one drop rule and learned about segregation and the caste system.
Was that through the power of suggestion, or they figured that out on their own?
People underestimate the Darwinism. As soon as you bring in, there's no creator, there's survival of the fittest, there's it's a race of evolution.
Anything goes. Yeah.
Anything goes. And so racial mixtures in America, it's like you can't stop it. Where is that? I know that they have the thing that leads it to
Oh, so that actress declared herself black, and so she had some genetics.
more than Elizabeth Warren, who didn't she get a free education because she said she was Native American? So
Yeah, I couldn't care less, but whether it's
Jim
true or
Crow
not,
laws reached their greatest influence. So they are narrowing it down because Jim Crow laws are pretty bad. And maybe we could look that up. But they were passed.
They had a purpose, and we know what that was. Yeah.
Right, to reestablish the one drop rule and teach Germany how to hate the Jews and hate the blacks and realize it's all white power. We taught them that.
Yeah, substitute, whatever class or race of individuals you're trying to
The good
limit.
news is that not everybody did it. But listen to this catch. During the same time, these states, Florida, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, and Utah, they retained their old style blood faction of de jure, but amended it to say, well, okay, we're going to allow 1/16 or 1/32. So they're going all about, we got too many people that,
to be equivalent to a single drop.
So when the Mormons showed up in the Utah area, there was a little too much mingling going on. And so they want to drop it down.
When it comes to reparations for Native Americans, they only take it to the 16th, but that's it. There's no 32nd.
Just the same thing.
Well, but for different reason. That's
right.
But
totally the takeaway,
totally different, agenda as far as their intentions and motivation.
My takeaway on it is they passed these laws between 1910 and 1930. The takeaway is these states didn't need to pass racial laws. They already had them. Yeah. And they thought they were strict enough. So they're not talking about these states said no. These states already had their racial laws. And they said, we're working with this. These states had too many mixed people. They wanted to keep it 1/16. That's the takeaway to me. Nope. The Jim Crow laws, what's the problem with them? Okay, again, vague. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, they enforced them. This isn't going to, I guess there's maybe you could look it up. The last of the Jim Crow laws were, it doesn't say finally.
That breaks down as 4 generations to a 16th. From half to quarter to eighth. If you're not.
So they don't want Brigham Young's family tested.
It has nothing to do with it, but yeah.
There's somebody high up in the Mormon thing from 4 generations ago that they don't want tested.
Probably.
Southern laws were enacted by redeemers to disenfranchise and remove political and economic gains made by African Americans during the Reconstruction era. So we had they were, and then they lynched a few people. They ran this country and they've covered it up. They freed the slaves and then captured them again in 6 years later with the next president.
Pull up the covers. It's chilly out.
Chili today, hot tamale.
Yeah, it could change.
And aren't you glad that we solved the racial problems, that we don't have to worry about race wars anymore? And that
Okay.
now we all get along, because these
Yeah.
guys, that's
Life
the guy
is good. Life is good, yeah.
they say he worked with the mob to help kill the president so he could be the president. That's what they said.
So,
These
yeah.
guys, yeah, they killed him too. They called him a commie and said, "You should kill yourself or we'll kill you." He goes, "I don't want to kill myself." Okay, we'll do it.
All in due time. Yep.
So what were some of the... It's just bad. It's just bad. I don't know
So
if
from
I
bad
should
to
read my
worse?
paper or go to my college website and see what I had. Here's the guy, George McCullen. He had, you know how
Got a
come
cold
Abraham,
hand.
you know how come Abraham Lincoln had to appoint him the head of the Potomac Army, the head of the Union Army, and not Grant right away?
He was forced?
Yep, kind of, because he needed to win the midterm elections. And did you know
yeah.
that all of the Confederate states owned slaves? Everybody in the chat room right now, there's over a dozen of you. Put in how many Union states was it legal to own a slave until 1865? The Union had slave states, and they needed those voters to vote Republican, because they were, and the Democrats, of which General George B. McClellan ran against President Lincoln because he thought they were going too far in freeing the slaves, was the head of the army in 1862 until the midterms. Then he got fired, because it's always been politics, man.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Yeah, but then, yeah, why the state rights would continue in the North Union side versus they wouldn't continue in the Confederate states.
Because they withdrew from the Union. They weren't a part of the Constitution anymore, I guess. Is that not the answer? So
I like the gloves. Was he a welder? No. Yeah.
Is that the same picture, or is that just the way he poses?
I'm wondering what's going on underneath that dress.
They're faking
It's
cannons.
it's a cover up. She was covering herself up, right?
Ooh.
What was
So
the
he was
ladder
famous,
there?
and he ran for president, and there were abolitionists. They wanted to end slavery, and then there were the anti-slavery party, some Democrats. They just didn't want to end slavery. They just didn't want it to spread to any other states and let them get more votes. That's why they were anti-slavery. So they've flipped now, the Republicans and Democrats. Well, maybe I think they've always been on the same team, pulling the wool over our eyes.
You mean two heads on the same serpent?
Yeah. What woke me up to this is neither one. I have two classes with two renowned PhDs. And I went to them and I said, "Have you ever heard of the wide awakes?" Oh, did I just put in too many A's? The wide awakes. And neither one of them had
insomnia.
No, they were a group of they were so abolitionists, which means we want to end slavery, and they protected Abraham Lincoln with their torches and their secret society.
Well, where were they when he went to the theater?
Well, he was already elected. They
Oh, okay.
grew from one little secret thing by Cassius Clay, and they successfully fought off that Democratic Party wearing their black capes and torch bearers, and they ended up only in March.
It was a long march.
Right, and it
Miles
was,
and miles.
they wanted to end slavery. They wanted workers to be able to strike to get fair wage, and
union.
allegedly Abraham Lincoln never heard of him, but he said, "I'm in. I like fair wages."
Yeah,
and all
union labor.
If you want to protect me, I'll think about freeing the slaves. And they're going like, no, we're all about freeing the slaves. And he goes, well, I can't say that yet. I've got to win the midterms. So they were
willing to forfeit some of your wage to the union labor cause, and then you'll have a serious club, and they'll beat you.
They like to dress and march in the military style with their shiny black fabric and the 6-foot torches. Ooh, man. So anyway, that's how they never heard about him. What's this? Waupun. Little is known about the National Organization of the Wide Awakes, but it's not like the John Birch Society in Appleton.
Well, the big house is there, and then the other one for the state corrections is also located same address, Waupun zip code.
The PhDs that made a living teaching history and loving, believe me, they love Abraham Lincoln. They never heard of the Wide Awake, so it's being released now. And what they know is that little is known about the national organization. They know they had 200 or so organizations, but they don't know if they had any formal governing body. It's like the damn Skull and Bones.
Waupun isn't that far from Ripon, where the Republican part began.
I went to that
proximity may have
Carnegie Library in Ripon. I think Ripon has a Carnegie Library. And so Waupun is like a suburb of that?
Well, no, Waupun is, less than, 25 miles, less than 25 miles, 20 miles maybe. I'm not certain on, but it's reasonably close. There's a couple small towns in between.
That horse is as tired as the rider. They're both going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
That's like the Carnegie Library. That's the city hall. All those Wisconsin towns have.
Yeah, well, Waupun is what the city of statues is what they go by. And there's a number of them.
Yeah, okay.
And there's some suspicious looking architecture. Whether it's the walls, that federal prison, that's looks like it's been there an awfully long time.
Right. All those prisons do. So as long as we're on the record, the scientific racism, that's just some bullshit. But they all believed it back then. They're sold lies, and we're not going to get into the lies that people believe today that, claim science, but they're usually wrong. They don't know how to classify human populations, but they thought they did, and they were in charge, and they repassed the laws. They made black leagues. It was as bad. They taught Germany. Nobody wants to admit it. That's the cover up. Yeah, it's all involved. we're under a dome. They've lied about everything. They showed them a globe from the time that they don't even remember the first
but
globe.
when it comes to genetics, and as far as like Emmanuel, what was his genetics 100%, Hebrew or whatever? Obviously not, in a couple incidences on the maternal side.
Is there people that say that Jesus was all white or something? They don't. I mean, he was. Yeah, he was. And he had a little bit of that Moabite, Moabite.
Well, and whatever Rahab, whatever that implies.
Yeah.
Also, it wasn't just Ruth.
Yeah.
And the line of David included. And yeah, if he was Rudy Red and all that, just like or similar to Esau. Maybe not quite as hairy, but
that
whatever.
That he was red, Esau. I mean, that's so sketchy that it barely.
But does it matter? I mean, maybe it's a descriptive
matters
thing
to them. It matters to the people that are wrong about a lot of things.
But I'm just saying,
they make it a big deal.
Some sort of line that's just pure line. I mean, other than, I mean,
and so they go against the direct commandment of scriptures that says, "Don't go chasing endless genealogies." And so, what do? They try to pull you into endless genealogies,
muddy the water. So don't
leading up to the in closing, we read Hebrews 9 a couple of days ago before my finals and all the other stress this university puts on me got in the way. I wanted us to finish today with Hebrews 8 slowly and let the people understand, please understand, that this was written to those people then, and they were basing their eternal salvation on, should I maintain my grip on this plow? Anything you want to add, RJ, before? I think I'll read the first 7.
No, I don't need to add anything,
Okay, so understand, this was written to people who had known friends that were dying. Verse 1, Hebrews chapter 8. Now, the point in what we are saying is this: we have such a high priest, one who is seated at the right hand of the throne of majesty in heaven, a minister in the holy places, in the true tent that the Lord set up, not man. For every high priest is appointed to offer gifts and sacrifice. Thus it is necessary for this priest, they're talking about Jesus now, also to have something to offer. Now, if he were on earth, he would not be a priest at all, since there are priests who offer gifts according to the law. They serve a copy and a shadow of the heavenly things. For when Moses was about to erect the tent, he was instructed by God, saying, "See that you make everything according to the pattern that was shown to you on the mountain." But as it is, Christ has obtained a ministry that is much more excellent than the old, as the covenant he mediates is better, since it is enacted on better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, there would have been no occasion for the second.
Oh, so this is a plan B?
This is, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe not.
I guess not. I guess
Well,
some people
it
want to
sounds like,
think.
you know, no, why is he changing it? What's up? What was wrong with what? You know, no, it's a
Right.
plan B. Well, yeah, because humanity, isn't going to comply.
Now,
Because
if
it's sinful
protect, this is
nature.
going back to chapter 7. Now, if perfection could have been attained through that Judeo law they're trying to shove down my throat to this day, why was there still need for another priest to appear? That's not even a word, people. One on the order of Melchizedek and not in the order of Aaron. Well, for when the priesthood is changed, the law must be changed.
Yeah, the priesthood, not the priest, the priesthood.
Yeah, the priesthood now has only one continuing eternal priest, and he's never changing. So there's just a short bit left, RJ. You got it?
You mean beginning with 8 here?
Por favor.
For he finds fault with them when he says, behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will establish a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, for they did not continue in my covenant. And so I showed no concern for them, declares the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my laws into their minds and write them on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall not teach each one his neighbor and each one his brother, saying, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. For I will be merciful toward their iniquities, and I will remember their sins no more. In speaking of a new covenant, he makes the first one obsolete. And what is becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to vanish away.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, we demand that you read that book like every other book, that it was written to those people then. And they trusted him. And they received that blessed first resurrection. Okay, we missed it. We missed it. We missed it.
You go back to the beginning because there's two we's, and I don't know what translations. And we were reading from
The English Standard.
English Standard. Okay, so right there in verse 1, we have a we, and then well, this isn't where we just read though.
Oh, the point that we are saying is we do have such a high priest. I thought we did
No,
revert.
because he starts out, we are saying, and I'm not certain who the we are, and then he goes to we who are he's speaking to, but it's it's two different, but it's used with we. Now the point in what we are saying is this.
Yeah, and we would include the people
everyone.
that the Apostle Paul knew.
Right, but so we are the apostles. Is that the we? And then he's speaking to whoever, which would be everyone included that is hearing him speak.
Yeah,
but it's the two we's that are not 100% totally the same.
I get it.
Because otherwise the crowd would have already known that. And he does an in-depth explanation is all.
Yeah. And I think that
but
They had,
whoever
heard that
sent them,
before.
Paul and Barnabas or whoever was, that was the initial we, and then it's everyone that's hearing them explain the new covenant and why it's new and what what caused it to change.
Right. So let's go to
But not that it's
Acts 17. Everybody knew.
well, you go out and it's part of the commission of informing bringing the news.
He could, and he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and boundaries of their dwelling place, that they should seek God and perhaps feel their way toward him and find him. Yet he is not far from each one of us, for in him we live and move and have our being, even as some of your own poets have said, for we are indeed his offspring. And now this is where is it turned the world upside down?
Well, how can you do that? It's spinning in a vacuum and being hurled. Yeah, and you're gonna flip it upside down. Would it matter? Huh? How would that? Yeah. How would you know the difference? Well,
They say
in reality, it would make a big difference. But what we are taught to parrot. Yeah.
Acts 17:6. And when they could not find them, they dragged Jason and some of the other brothers before the authorities, shouting, "These are men who have turned the world upside down, have come here also." Now, I don't think it would have entered their mind to think that it was a globe. They just mean like John the Baptist did. All of a sudden,
I think
people are repenting.
that's more
there's no
recent.
way that people in that era believed in the globe.
No way. They knew the only thing that was moving was above their that what they were standing on is stationary, and the pillars of the earth do belong to read Rachel's prayer there in First Samuel. Pretty obvious.
The New American Standard said these are the men who have upset the world.
Yeah,
because the upside down started with King James, of course, and the other translations. They give credit.
Yeah, they share that nonsense.
They always
translation.
Yep, they lean towards going with what that ridiculous translation likes to spit out. But anyway, that's it.
I like wearing them as footwear, flip flops. But other than that, the flip flop thing is kind of whatever.
Well, I know you're the flip flop boy, but the winter puts a damper on that. I want people to remember, we're living a lie. You're striving to serve the Lord. He's not Roman Catholic. They're not our brothers. It's not like, that whole Spanish Inquisition. They said they're sorry. No, they're not. They're still, it's all that lie. We have the veil that's being lifted. It's pretamillennialism. The millennial age is past. That's why this ministry started a channel that YouTube banned called Flat Earth Nation Golden Age Past because it was true then.
Oh,
and
that's
it's
like a 3
true
in
now.
1.
And we're never going to tell you anything else. Why would we? We're 1 called, 2 chosen, 3 trying to prove we have your best interest at heart in answering our call.
Sweet
Amen.
dreams.
Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame. That's how I say goodbye without the hiccups usually.